Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Naruto video. This one's going to be my first Naruto book slash novel, light novel review. It's going to be for Naruto Kakashi's story, and the title of that story is Lightning in the Frozen Sky. And yeah, first of all, what is this? It is a series, this is the first, I suppose, of a series of novels released after the end of the manga that kind of continues on the story. Most of those novels are set in between like episode manga chapter 699 and the last movie. So, specifically, as it says in the back of this book, the general description here is a year has passed since the fourth Great Ninja War, and Kakashi's appointment as Hokage looms. But first, he heads to the Land of Waves for a dangerous mission rescuing hostages from a top secret airship. There, he confronts a ninja whose heart is frozen by tragedy. Having lost both his friend's eye and his greatest abilities, can Kakashi protect anyone from his cold-hearted foe? What is the true meaning of the Will of Fire gained in the distant heavens? Kakashi finds these answers and more as he enters a new ninja era. So yeah, overall I like this book, and I think the main thing I came out of this going like is that, okay, as we're approaching the end of the anime now, I think they kind of have to animate this book. This is I think this would work really nicely as a 2-3 episode little arc, and you just get to see Kakashi just before he's appointed to the sixth Hokage, the doubts in his mind, because here's the thing, this story is basically a kind of a hijacking. It's a group of shinobi hijack this new airship, the first airship ever created. Some of the Leaf Ninja are brought on as security, and that's basically what the book is. There's a little more depth to it there with regards to why the shinobi hijacked the ship and stuff like that, who the villains are and stuff like that. But effectively, the main theme of this is, it's a airship hijacking, and it crash lands. There's some crazy action stuff as they're falling out of the sky. Kakashi's doing awesome stuff. Guy's on the ship for a while. They're getting support from the people back at the Leaf Village. Tsunade is organizing things, and of course, this is all being kept secret from the other villages. So there's a little bit of like, we have to keep the secret. We can't let it go into other territories and stuff like that. But but overall, I think it's a very fun book. It's not going to, I think, blow anyone away with regards to the character development for Kakashi or the villain's motivations or anything like that. But I think it would make for some very fun anime episodes just to get to see some of this stuff animated. So yeah, let's get into the characters. I think that's the best way to do this without me just trying to touch on every single plot point that's brought up here. Kakashi, of course, is the main character, but I'll leave him more towards the end here. The other, I suppose, good characters on the good side of things here are, I suppose, the most present in the story is probably Might Guy, obviously Kakashi's friend, I suppose best friend now currently, and some really interesting stuff happens with him because obviously he's in a wheelchair after his attack on Madara using the 8 inner gates and stuff like that. He survived, and they basically say he'll never be a shinobi again, but Guy has somewhat bounced back. His leg is kind of going to be forever in a cast basically, but using the power of youth, all the exercising and stuff like that, the challenges he sets for himself, he has managed to get himself back into a position where he can do certain missions as a shinobi. And Kakashi even points out that he can actually, for short periods of time, stand up and actually do kind of full-on taijutsu sparring and stuff like that. It hurts him, but he can actually do it for a limited amount of time. And we see that come into play here. The reason he comes into the story is that he basically goes against Tsunade's orders and forces himself on board the airship, the Tobi Shachimaru. It's really a hard name to pronounce. It's Tobi Shachimaru, which is the airship made by the Land of Waves by Tazuna from the first arc of Naruto. So really interesting connections there. But he wants on board basically because he's interested. He wants to be on this first flying airship ever created. And so he gets a lead to basically help him on board. What happens is Kakashi is there as everyone's getting on board. and Lee kind of comes out of nowhere and kind of like attacks Kakashi but gets beaten up, and this is how Kakashi discovers that Guy is kind of sneaking on board, and basically from there, it's once they're up in the sky, the enemy ninjas attack, and it's Guy and Kakashi with like two or three other random Leaf Shinobi who get taken out fairly quickly, basically fending off, trying to keep all of the hostages alive and taking out the villains and stopping them from succeeding with what they want to do, and crashing the airship and so on. So Guy is fun in this book. He gets a really cool fight scene against an ice style user who uses kind of ice style to augment his taijutsu. It's a pretty cool fight as you see him. He can still like kick and stuff like that with his bad leg, but it does hurt him. But it's not as big of a kind of issue as you would think. There's a funny moment where Guy uses this what's it called, the fist of seasickness, I think is what he calls it. Let me just find the chapter title here. It's gets one of the special attack, fists of seasickness. So like obviously we saw from various parts of Naruto that Guy doesn't handle like motion sickness, stuff like that, all that well. And it's the same here on this airship. He has that, but he uses it to advantage, and he's able to suddenly dodge everything, kind of like Lee's drunken fist. So Guy has the seasickness fist. That's a pretty fun move. He's getting sick everywhere, but it's doing enough to distract his opponent. Just that kind of comedy style that they use with Lee's drunken fist. It's quite good. For the second half of the book, they kind of get him out, because I think what happens. Sai arrives up and escorts a couple of the passengers out, and that's why Guy is kind of absent from the second part of the story, and it's more focused on Kakashi himself trying to resolve things. You get a little bit on like characters like Ino. Ino is used as basically her technique is used to communicate between Kakashi up in the airship and Tsunade back in the Leaf Village. So you get a little bit on her. Choji's there. Shikamaru's guarding things at Hozuki Castle, which is a big thing in this book. That this book makes the Naruto Blood Prison movie canon, because specifically Naruto being there, putting in prison for a crime he didn't commit, the destruction of the Hozuki Castle, the death of Mui, the warden, all referenced here, and then the book ends with one of the villains from this book being made the new warden of that prison. So I think that's a really cool thing, that the Blood Prison is made completely canon. It's been rebuilt, and they have a new warden now, but I'll get into that in a minute. Choji obviously is there for a little bit. Naruto is in it at the very start and at the very end. The first chapter is Naruto and Sai on a mission, and they capture the leader of this enemy shinobi alliance, the Ryuma Armed Alliance. He captures their leader, a guy called Gario, and in the process managed to defeat some ice style users in combat, who are the two villains we see later on in the book. And the reason Naruto is not in the story for the rest of it is that, specifically when they hijack, they say, if Naruto Uzumaki is involved at all in this conflict, we will blow up the ship without asking any questions. Do not involve Naruto Uzumaki in this. And then at the end, he's used to make fun of Kakashi, because this book sort of tries to create a relationship between Kakashi and the one of the villain characters who becomes the warden of the prison. This female ice style user called Kayo, Kahyo. Not really sure how to pronounce it. And they do definitely develop their relationship. They're constantly talking about their kind of ideologies, and have you felt the kind of same pain that I have? And there's definitely a little bit of attraction there between the two of them. And the book ends with a kind of her sending him a letter, because she's very happy about the fact that he ultimately, his first act as the 6th Hokage is really to make her the warden rather than sentencing her to death. But I'll get into her more specifically in a few minutes. Other characters, Sakura is involved a little bit. She supports the defense effort at Hazuki Castle with her healing abilities. Tsunade is actually quite important in this book, because she's still acting Hokage, because the whole thing in this book is that Kakashi right now is kind of refusing to set a date for his inauguration as the 6th Hokage, even though he's basically is the Hokage. It just hasn't been made official yet. His face is carved into the mountainside already and stuff like that at this point. He just hasn't seemed to do it just yet. So Tsunade is acting like that, and basically when this thing goes wrong, what happens is that she has to deal with the political situation here, and that basically the Land of Waves is building this and is kind of somewhat sharing the technology with the Leaf Village and involving them, but they don't want the other shinobi villages to know about this. And so what happens, obviously, when the hijacking takes place is that they're heading for Hazuki Castle, which is in a neutral land, the Land of Grass, but they're heading towards the obviously the land where the with the Tsuchikage, the village hidden in the stone. They're kind of heading in that direction. He then sees it, obviously, because it's the hijackers aren't trying to keep it secret or anything like that. And so he's threatening, like, if this comes anywhere near me, I'm blowing it up. I'm not asking any questions. And so there's this big issue of, like, all the innocent people on board are going to get killed if the hijackers take it too far. But at the same time, the hijackers, they're basically planning to blow up Hazuki Castle to free their leader, who obviously Naruto captured in the first chapter. So there's you sort of see where everything's beginning to come into play there. And so yeah, you get a little touched on with most of the, Konoha, kind of younger characters, ninjas, Naruto's era of characters. But Kakashi is the main character. And I like what they do here because they don't try and do anything too heavy with this. Like, he's not trying to avoid being Hokage. He's just a little bit concerned that he perhaps isn't powerful enough to be the sixth Hokage anymore because he doesn't have the Sharingan. And he sees it as basically like, I've lost the Sharingan, so I'm kind of no longer the copy ninja. My legend, what makes me powerful, is no longer there. And because of that, I can't use all my powerful techniques like Lightning Blade and stuff like that. So why am I worthy of being Hokage? Now, he does reveal a new technique in this book. It's called Lightning Style Violet Bolt, which is this really cool technique that is... it's powerful, but it's also very accurate. It's this purple lightning that he can use either, single jolts really accurately, or he can do like a massive kind of spray of lightning. And he uses it in very impressive ways in this book. It's powerful because he can only use it a set number of times, just like Chidori and stuff like that. But this is what I really want this animated for, to see how they animate Violet Bolt. The two cool ways he uses it are, in terms of a more accurate way, what really makes the villains villainous is that towards the end there's this reveal that the Tsuchikage informs the Hokage that, look, the reason I know about the airship, even though you've been keeping it secret, is because these villains, these shinobi, they basically stole a whole bunch of like blue fire powder from an area surrounding our village. And we basically know that it's on board that ship. So there's this dangerous explosive powder on board the ship. And so they initially think they're using the ship as a basically bomb. They're just going to crash the whole ship into Hazuki Castle and explode everything. But it's later revealed that what they're actually doing with the blue powder is that they've rigged all of the parachutes on board the airship with the blue fire powder. And they were planning to release all of the hostages at the last minute by parachuting them out over Hazuki Castle, but with the blue, without telling them that the blue fire powder's there. And so when the people land on the ground, they'll explode. And that will be how they cause the havoc and get their leader out of Hazuki Castle. And this is what causes Kayo, who's the kind of female leader, the love interest of Kakashi, to actually turn against her, group, because she never agreed to this. She doesn't want to kill everyone. She wants her leader out because she feels that their ideals can help accomplish things, but she doesn't want to kill anyone. But I'll get into more about her later on. So that's a really big thing when it comes out. But what Kakashi does is he uses his lightning to really accurately, basically, snap off all of the ties that are tying the parachute vests onto people, and gets those parachute vests off them effortlessly. Like, he just does that, and suddenly everyone is relatively safe from what's about to happen to them. The powerful way he uses it is that in the final scene, the big action scene, what's happening is that the gondola section of the airship has fallen off, but the air bladder section is going up, and so they're in danger, everyone that's in the air bladder section, of dying from basically their blood boiling if they get to a certain height. And what's happening here is that there's been a hole already made in the airship, but the ice style user has plugged it. But to get down, they have to open up further holes in the airship so they start going down. But they have to control it and keep the air bladder that they're in, keep a structure to it. As they're falling, they create a hole. The ice style user kind of reveals that, look, there's not enough water in the air here. I can't keep structure anymore. So what Kakashi does is he dives out of the airship through the hole and activates Violet Bolt and basically puts purple lightning everywhere. This creates actual natural lightning, and it starts a thunder rainstorm. And this creates the water that she needs, and she's able to use her ice style to basically hold the structure of the air bladder together, so that it can actually just effortlessly glide to the ground, and they save most of the people. Now, during this process, I think they say 18 of the 57 passengers die, in addition to Kayo's brother, who is the ice style leader, the guy with the ice style powers that augment his taijutsu. So, a lot of stuff happens in this, but I think it could be done in 2 or 3 anime episodes, and done quite well. Kayo, though, let's get into her. I really like what they do here in that Kakashi initially meets her as just a woman in a dress, kind of getting on board the ship. That's how she gets on secretly. But later on it's revealed that she is in fact one of the leaders, one of the people that Naruto confronted in the first chapter. And she told this story to Naruto about the fact that she's so angry at the world because her son, who helped to save a friend and was injured in the process, wasn't given medical attention by the Land of Waves, and he died in the process. The story is later revealed to be the fact that her son was born with the same KK Genkai, so he has ice style as well. And he protected his friend who disturbed a hornet's nest by fending off these hornets with ice style. He took a lot of stings in the process, and the friend only took a couple. The friend ran off, didn't do anything, and it was left for Kayo to actually go and find her son and look for medical attention, but she wasn't given any because she was considered a rogue shinobi, because she was a KK Genkai user, and that's why she kind of hates the world and sided with Garyo, and is so intent on doing all of this. And in her conversations with Kakashi throughout the book, there's some really interesting back and forth about this sort of thing, where he kind of questions to her, how do you think this is solving anything? You killing people. Everyone is the son or daughter of someone else. How is you killing more people going to make amends for the fact that you lost your own child? And you really see his kind of will of fire come out, and that how willing he is to protect anyone, and how Kakashi fundamentally doesn't want to kill anyone himself. And so this is especially proven to her when the initial breakdown of the airship happens, and Ryo gets sucked out, but Kakashi grabs him. But it's such a violent thing, he can't hold on. And there's this big moment of them understanding that he is a fundamentally good character, especially for her, when he's trying to save his enemy, the guy who is leading this whole thing. And in the end, it comes down to just this idea where she realizes that she kind of is on the wrong side and doesn't want people to die, and kind of realizes that this isn't the way to go about sort of fixing what happened to her son. And so, her basically becoming a hero in the later stage of the book, when she helps Kakashi bring everyone else down to safety. It's a big moment. And obviously what Kakashi does here, his big heroic moment, I suppose, is what proves to him that he is good enough to be Hokage, and that even though he doesn't have the Sharingan, he still has the will worthy of being the Hokage. And the big final event of the book, in the final chapter and epilogue, is that when they get down, Tsunade is basically on the scene and is like, look, Kayo, you are going away to prison forever. We might even have to kill you because your crimes were so terrible. Kakashi kind of interrupts and is just like, I'll take over as 6th Hokage here. This will be my first act. You have to die for what you did, Kayo. But as Hokage, I will change your sentence from death to life imprisonment. I think your skills will be best put into place as the warden of Hozuki Castle, the Blood Prison. Because the previous warden had a special skill that allowed him to control the prisoners, I think your special technique can control the prisoners too. And so he manages to basically give her a meaning in life, something that she can do to, in I suppose, over her life, you know, look after the people who are actually the villains of this world, and keep them in line, while still making, I suppose, amends for what she has done, and not being killed for that. Now, her own technique is also ice style, but it's different to her brother's in that her style is called, it's a ice style earthen ice chains. And what it is basically, she touches someone and activates a little bit of ice, and she basically plants this seed of ice that, for people without chakra, just takes over their whole body, and they're engulfed in ice and die. For people who have chakra, they can counteract it by basically like keeping their chakra flowing throughout their body. But to counteract it, they basically have to use all of their chakra to do that. So they're effectively rendered to the point where they are just a normal person. And so it's the perfect technique to keep ninja prisoners with chakra in line, in that to keep themselves alive, they have to basically negate all of their abilities. And so it's the perfect technique, and she becomes the perfect warden. And so the funny ending to the book, which I really like, is basically Naruto's been absent for this whole thing the whole time, and he sort of blames Kakashi a bit for him not being involved. So he starts spreading these rumors around that Kakashi has used his position as the 6th Hokage to basically force this relationship with Kayo and get her this position as the warden, and that there's this secret romance going on between the two of them, and Kakashi's this roguish character now with regards to romance. And he spreads this to everyone, and so when Kakashi's walking through the village, he's the 6th Hokage now. Everyone's like, what are you doing? Like, Guy and Lee are talking about it and how they've lost a lot of respect for him. Ino, Sakura, and Hinata are chatting and gossiping about it, and he walks by and is just like, what are they talking about? And then he finds Naruto blabbing it to everyone in the village, and he's just like, what are you doing, Naruto? And they all reveal that, no, this was just a joke made up by Naruto. We're all just in on it, trying to tease you a bit. He does the funny punch Naruto in the head thing to shut him up. And they all, again, make a big deal about it. Like, oh, you're the Hokage abusing your power to hit Naruto. And so he's basically just like, okay, well, what do we have to do to make up for it? And Naruto's just like, Ichiraku ramen! And it's this idea that Kakashi was initially worried at the start of the book that if he became Hokage, everything would change. He wouldn't be friends with any of the people he'd be friends with anymore. He wouldn't have time for anyone. But he realizes now that he is Hokage, and he's still joking around with people. He's still buying ramen for Naruto and stuff like that, He just has a more important position in the village now. And we end with Kakashi reading the letter everyone was teasing him about from Kayo, and it says, Dear 6th Hokage, I hope you've been well. I'm always pressed with the everyday businesses of work, but as the season shifts each day to spring, I carry out my duties with a peaceful heart, ... Spring had indeed arrived. So, it's this little hint that there's a sort of relationship between the two of them, that it could blossom into romance over time. I believe one of the DLCs for Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, one of the side quests, has like one line of dialogue where Kakashi mentions Kayo, and the implication from that line of dialogue is that there's a closeness between the two. Whether or not it ultimately is a ship that leads to anything or anything like that, we're not fully sure. But it's just interesting that Kakashi's kind of romance kind of thing set up is with this character, and there is this book to set up that story. So overall, it's a book that's not going to blow anyone away in terms of amazing character development. It's a nice insight into just the issues Kakashi dealt with just before he became Hokage, and a look into, I suppose, what villains are like post the Fourth Great Ninja War, and that the main idea of these villains was basically just that they agreed with Madara and wanted to do the same thing. They believed that the problem with the world was that not everything was equal, and that the only way they could make things equal was by controlling the freedoms of people, controlling who works where and stuff like that. That was their basic idea. to make amends for stuff like the injustice of what happened to Kayo's son. So yeah, interesting, and I think when this is, if this is, and I hope it is, I think it will be animated at some point after they finish the main story. I think these are a couple of episodes that people will like. I think the action parts of this episode and seeing Kakashi basically do this mission solo with a bit of help from Guy and Sai here and there is a really cool idea, and it's just visually I think this is going to look awesome because most of the action takes place up in the air on a blimp and falling down, crazy stuff, new jutsus, and it's fun in that sense, but it's not a really deep story, I think is the best way to say it. So that's been the review. In the comments, let me know if you've read the book, what your thoughts are on it, thoughts on the review. I will have the next novel review, the Shikamaru story, A Cloud Drifting in the Silent Dark. I'll probably review that next week. And then the Sakura book, I'm not sure what the name of that is out next week, so I'll probably have that the following week. So a couple of these Naruto books I will be reviewing over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, that's been a video. Thanks for watching, and bye.